We're on Testament base. Do we start? I don't think we started the Mishnah, right?
That's where we stopped.
That's where we stopped, yeah. Okay. Peros. Fruit, shetorman. Now, you took off truma here. Achlo nigmar melachton. You took off truma from the fruit before they were completed. In other words, before you finished doing whatever you wanted to do to them. You took off truma nonetheless. You prematurely, I guess would be the right word. Rabbi Lezer osam milachol mehen arai. Rabbi Lezer forbids you to snack from them subsequently because taking off truma is what? What?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you in the Mishnah?
Yeah.
Let's try it again. Perush determined shlo nigmar malachton. Fruit which was tithed before it was completed. Okay. Right? Rabbi Lezer oser, Rabbi Lezer forbids milachol mehen right to eat from them, snack from them subsequently, because the fact you took a truma, the right, fixes them to be chayiv and truma semaisers. The Chacham permit you to eat from them, nonetheless, to continue to eat from them as a snack, with the exception of a basket of figs. A basket of figs, and the Gemara is going to say that not necessarily figs, but other things as well, we'll talk about it. In the case of a basket of fruit, so then the fact you took off truma from it and it's in a basket, those two elements together combine to tell you that you can no longer snack from the fruit afterwards until you take off the rest of the meiser. Correct. If you had a basket of figs and you took truma off those figs, so Rabbi Shimon Matir, Rabbi Shimon says that it's permitted to continue to snack. And Chachamim, the same Chacham we had moments ago, say Osim, say it's forbidden, you may no longer snack on it until you took off Truma, but until you take off the other gifts, the Ma'asros. Okay, let's go to the Gemara. Is it right at the beginning of the Gemara? Ma'anon Kayamin? What are we talking about? What is Machlokas concerned? If we're talking about a basket full of figs, everybody agrees that it's also to partake. Once you took off trumas, it's also continue to partake of the basket until you take off the meiser as well. If it's talking about shemen, it's talking about where you have olives and you want to tell you took truma from the olives off oil. Or a navi you took truma from wine, from grapes on wine, divrei kol muter. So in that case, I say since wine and grapes very often, not necessarily, but very often are going to be processed and be made into grape juice or be made into olive oil. So that what?
I don't have the shemen of the yain. Good.
So if that's the case. So divrei kol muter, in that case, everybody would agree you continue snacking them because it's possible that they're not totally completed yet. Ella, you have that?
Ella, yeah.
What's next? What do you have? Ella ki, go on.
Non.
Ki anan kayamin. Rather, what are we talking about? B'tamarim, we're talking about dates. Where's their machlokas? By dates, vu'asi l'dorsa migrogos. We intend to crush them into like little cakes. Or vasi l'doishan, the same idea, going to compact them. Rabbi Lezer Omer, Rabbi Lezer says, so far you with me? Truma tavalosan, once you took off truma, they're considered to be tevel, meaning that you're no longer allowed to snack them. Because even though you intend to press them into big fig cakes or big date cakes, that's not integral. So therefore it's considered that they're completely finished, and the complete finishing, plus the taking off of truma, makes them fixed and permanently, and you can no longer snack from them unless you take off truma sumaisers. Rabbanan are arguing, they say, a truma tovalasan, the fruit is not made fixed to be tevel, meaning to be considered untight, that you can no longer snack from them. Compare shlonim malachton. Why? Because I assume that they're still considered to be fruit which is not complete. Why it's not complete? Because his intent was to continue on the process and press them, and that's considered to be a continuation of the process. Okay? Now, the Gemara asked the question. Rishon ma'u sheyat bil. Do you have that? Right, Tabir Rav? What happens if you took off Ma'aser Rishon but not Truma? Are you now, before you continue to snack, are you required to take off the other tights? Or you can snack without taking off the other tights? So it says the Gemara, what word do you have next? Manan Kayamin. What are we talking about? If it's talking about where there was an actual smoothing of the pile, so Divrei everybody agrees you can't continue to eat it until you take off all the tights altogether. If you took off the Ma'aser Rishon while the grain was still out in the field in the form of stalks, Divrei Kol Mutter, and everybody agrees that that's certainly not considered to be anywhere near completion, and you can snack afterwards. You don't have to take off Trumas in order to snack, you just continue to snack as if you had not done anything. Ella, rather, Cain, this is the way to learn it. What the next word you learn? What do you have in there? Hanakamin. This is what we're talking about a case. Pitmarim, this case we're talking about. Pitmarim, we're talking about dates for in which you intend to crush into a cake. The grogros, or by figs, v'asi ledushan, you intend to crush them as well. V'yishmem truma gedolah. In that case, if, as we mentioned in Mishnah, you set aside truma gedolah, you set aside truma from them, and then you decided not to press them. The next word is va'avar, but avar literally means to transgress an aver, but here it's kind of a mistake. It doesn't mean anything, the word va'avar here. And then Ivishman Rishon. Then you set aside Ma'aser Rishon from them. You set aside also Ma'aser Rishon. In Temel Mafreya Nitbalu. If you're going to say that retroactively, in other words, it's a little bit hard to explain what's going on here, but you had dates, and you wanted to use these dates, you wanted to keep these dates in order to make press cakes. Then you changed your mind. Okay? But in the meantime, before you changed your mind, you took off Truma. So if the Truma works, if now I consider retroactively that it became suitable for Trumas and Maasros, meaning that it couldn't be snacked upon, from the time it was harvested, because my original intent to make it into pressed cakes was quashed, right? So then it's really not, there's no question that the Maasros is going to make it fixed. The Truma makes it fixed, because you already took off Truma. Okay? So the if the case is about a case where originally intended to make press date cakes, and then he reneged on that intent and decided instead to leave it as is. Then of course the truma which he takes off immediately is going to be mechayev him to continue tithing. That can't be the case we're talking about. Can't be the case where the truma preceded the meiser in a more or less conventional way. Rather, it must be talking about like this. In Tamar Mikan. Still not satisfied with the way I explained it to you. I want to try and explain it better. Did you understand what I was saying?
You were saying that he took off trumas. Well, he's going to first. He decided to make cakes out, but he decided not to. So
then he changed his mind. Took a truma, right?
And then he didn't say what he took off mice.
No, he didn't yet.
He did not take.
But that's the point that was made. The taking off a meiser after subsequently has no halachic, ramification. Because Ray took off truma, so what fixes it as being chayiv in the other tithes? Yeah, but why can he no longer snack on it? Because of the truma. The meiser is not a factor. He took off truma, right? So that's the factor. So we want to isolate a case which the only factor when the question is the fact that he took off meiser.
Oh, it took off meiser.
Didn't take off truma, right? And the case I just gave you, the factor which qualifies it is the fact that he took off truma already. Am I making myself clear though?
Well, now you're not. How can you take off meiser without taking off truma first?
Improperly.
Oh.
It was bad. Wasn't supposed to do that.
It's just, okay.
He did a bad thing. He took a meiser for
He did it
truma.
backwards, in other words?
Yeah.
He took a mice and then took a truma?
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, good.
That's our question. If he took his meiser, then take his truma. Now the Gemara clarifies. This is really the Gemara's clarification is really unnecessary almost. But the Gemara say because we already know what type of case to do a meiser or not truma. But the Gemara nonetheless kind of repetitiously or redundantly is probably a better word says that if he intended originally to press it and then changed his mind and took off truma, so the truma is what makes it, of course, unsuitable to snack, right? So that's not the issue we're discussing, right? Rather, what issue are we discussing? Where do you have your finger now? What's the next word? Vin tamer mikanu ohabo nitpalu. This is the question. If you're going to say that it only changes its status after from here on in, so what happens if he changes his mind after the array took off to truma? In that case, we say that now rishon ushu toivel, and now can I say the truma is already water on the bridge because the truma was taken when he had in mind actually to still press it. Now he changed his mind, so he's not going to press it, but rather he's going to leave it alone. But he decided that after he took off the truma.
So, what's the problem? He didn't press it.
And then he took off meiser.
Okay.
Can you eat it now without? Can you continue snacking without taking off the other tithes?
What else did we search for?
Meiser sheni.
How much? No.
That's the first question. Okay, Tanya, we learned. Okay, let's bring a proof. Okay, you with me still? Okay, grow gross.
Okay, we didn't have tiny gross.
What?
We didn't have tiny gross.
You know, Tanya. Okay, very often that happens, right? Okay, grow gross. Some of you takes dates. He's a Talmud Chacham. He buys from Amar's dates. V'wasi l'doishon, and already the seller had in mind to make them into pressed cakes. Tamarim, I think that's figs actually. Tamarim, figs, dates. V'wasi l'darsan. So also where the seller had in mind that they should be pressed into cakes. Also, le'achol man arai. You're not the buyer is not allowed to eat from them a snack. U'misaknon d'mai, and he has to assume that maybe even the Amorts who sold them took up trumas umaisis from them, and therefore it's only d'mai. It's not definitely chayim with trumas umaisis. This is all Divrei Meir. This is all Rav Meir's opinion. Are you with me?
Yeah, d'mai means it's just they're not sure.
Right, but look at the next case. The Chachamim say, "Ochel man arai."
Okay.
You can eat you can still snack from them, even though the seller
Okay.
Yeah. Can still snack with them because it's not considered to be in this case. Let me make this clear because Gemara doesn't make it clear till later. Rav Meir holds if I sell you something, even if it's not yet Gemar Malacha, if it's not fully done, I'm still.
When you say that's fully done, does that mean not fully right?
No, the processes of
whatever you're going to do.
processing, such as pressing cakes, are not fully completed yet. So the mayor says that in this case, if I sell you something, even if it's not fully completed yet, I'm still chayav with trumas and ma'asros. Me, you, both of us, and we can't snack anymore. Rav Meir holds it's only koveya. Rav Meir holds it's only koveya if in the case where
Koveya means one sugar.
Meir said fixes that you can't snack anymore. I just start repeating Rav Meir. Let me repeat it once. I start repeating. Meir says it's only koveya for trumas and ma'asros. It is only is a bad word to Rav Meir because he says it's koveya for trumas and ma'asros. And you're no longer allowed to snack, even if I sell you something which is not yet fully processed. The fact that it was sold.
Oh, when selling the wood's fixed.
Okay?
That's one of the things that fixes.
That's one of the things it fixes. So therefore, the Amoretz himself might have taken off Trumas and Maasros. Might have. Now look at Rabbi Chachamim. Chachamim say no. Ochamer arrived. The only time a sale actually makes it fixed and you can no longer snack is if you sold the Amoret, sold you the Talmud Chacham something which was completely finished already. All right. In other words, there was no intent to engage in any additional processes. Then in that case, Chachamim say, in our case here, which we're discussing here, where it was sold prior to Gemar Malacha, prior to being completed, so Chachamim say you can still snack. There's no problem with snacking. And not only that, since there is no problem snacking, the Amoritz knows you won't have any problem snacking, so he's not going to take off any tights at all. So therefore, Masak Vada, when you actually take off the Trumas Samaisis, you take them off as if they're definitely Chayv Trumas Samaisis. Okay? Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Hila, and Rabbi Lezer all said B'Shem Rabbi Chilfoi, all said name Rabbi Chilfoi. Rabbi Yoinam and Rabbi Yoinam said Ashkechun Ksiv Pinkasi Chilfoi, that we found them written in Chilfoi's notebooks. In the same case, where I sold you fruit which is not yet fully processed, Ochem and Arayu, the buyer, can eat from them as a snack. On the other end, however, when you come to rectify them, you only rectify them on the basis of a doubt, and it's a suffix, and it's only demai. So this is difficult. Not yet on a Euro base. The kasha, it's difficult. How can there be a logical inconsistency? If you can eat from them, snack from them, then that means that the Amoritz would not have taken tights of them, because he knows that there was no fixing, right? So Masaknam Vadai. In that case, you should have to be Masakin Vadai. Right? You should definitely assume that that's a problem. V Masaknam Tamai, if on the other hand, you're saying that's Tamai, because the Amoritz might have actually taken off the tights. So then Yeosser Lecho Man Arai. You should be also for you to eat from them temporarily, because meaning that it means that the Amoret may have taken off Truvas and Meisers because he realizes that you're no longer allowed to snack because there was a sale here. Since there was a sale here, so therefore you in fact should not be allowed to snack. So how could it be both? How could it be both the Mai and you could continue to eat from that? That seems to be a paradox. So Rabbi Yossi b'Shem Rabbi Hila said, Oimer, Rabbi Yossi b'Shem Rabbi Hila said, doesn't have Oimer. Ochamen Harai, you can eat from them off the cuff, on a snack, because it's not complete, because there was an intent to continue pressing them into cakes. On the other hand, Mesaknon Tamai, when you want to try and rectify this stuff, you only rectify it as a question mark, because the Amoritz all the time we have to assume that he took off Trumas and Maisis. Why? Because the Amoritz, he thinks he's from. He just doesn't know the halacha. So he's going to take up Trumas and Maisis because he knows he might take it home himself. So therefore, in order to be careful, he's going to take up Trumas and Maisis. So after Mafish Truma Mishar Rishar, he also takes Truma off right from the gift. Maybe actually he did take off Trumas and Maisis. Okay? What's the next word you have here? Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer, it's going back on our Mishnah, where it said that no, it said a basket of figs. Everybody agrees that once you put in the basket, you're no longer allowed to snack from it. Our Mishnah is referring to any type of basket, not just the figs. Why do they mention figs? Because figs, a special chiddush here, because figs are almost never eaten fresh; they're almost always dried. So therefore, I might say that that when they're in the basket doesn't make them fixed to forbid snacking, because they're not Gemar Malacha yet. Why are they not Gemar Malacha? Because invariably, what are they used for? For drying, right? So therefore, I might say they could still snack from them. That's why at the end of the Mishnah it says that any basket of fruit you're no longer allowed to snack from. Tani, we learned. Rabbi Shim Mati Rekav Chomer. Rabbi Shim permitted this from a Kav Chomer. What's the Kav Chomer? This is Rabbi Shimon in our Mishnah. He said that even a basket of fruit is exempt. Now, what's the Kav Chomer he made? He said, Interesting, Kavachomer. You said where you still haven't taken off neither truma nor either meiser rishon or meiser sheni. You're allowed to snack. Ad Omar Mutter, you say you're allowed to snack.
Right.
You haven't taken off anything yet.
Okay.
Here, b'shasha ain't allowed. What's the next two words by you? Zika shlosha. Zika shlosha. Here, you already took off one of the chiyuvim, right? You took off one of the responsibilities. What's that? You already set aside truma, right? You took off truma or meiser, whatever the case may be. You took off whatever one of them. So here, if a time when all three are missing, you're still allowed to snack. Here, b'shosh enelav zika shlosha meisers I have when it no longer has three meisers riding on it. Lo koshkeit, it's not a kavachoma that it's permissible. In other words, it's better. Now you took off one truma, it certainly should be better. So it says the Gemara, Risho Maushi Yakpi Yitpo L'Sheni. What happens if you took up truma and meiser rishon? Can you continue to snack even though you haven't taken off meiser sheni? That's more kasha. Does the rishon make the second one tevel? You're no longer allowed to snack. Says more no. Umayim b'shor sheyesh lo zika shnei meisers when it has the responsibility of two meisers of truma and meiser at Omar Mutter, so you're still allowed to eat it as a snack. B'shor she'ein alav el zikas meiser echad. When you only have one meiser you haven't yet taken off, lo kol shukein, you certainly are allowed to snack from it. Okay, so by snacking, it seems according to this Gemara, or at least there are various different gradients. Okay, so let's go back to the Mishnah. Omer l'chaveiro. Do you have that case?
That's what the original price was 6. But you should have brought me something that's worth now 6.
Yeah, back in the Mishnah.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Omer l'chaveiro. Somebody says to his friend, "Hey, l'chisazeh. Here is your this iser. It's saintly bo chamesh teinim. I give you 4 at 5 teinim. Okay, here's a coin. Give me 4 at 5 figs. Lo yochel ad she'asadir Rameir. So Rameir says, regardless, whenever you buy fruit, you're now no longer allowed to snack until you take meisers off of it. Rabbi Rameir ochel achas upater. Rabbi says even if you're buying it, you're still allowed to snack as long as you eat one by one. One by one is okay. If however you made a little combination of all of them, chayav, then you can no longer snack. Rabbi said, "Ma'aseh b'Ginas V'anim." There's an episode which happened with Ginas V'anim with the rose garden, but not the one in the White House. Choice of Yerushalmi, which was in Yerushalayim. And he used to sell them for astronomical prices. They're very, very precious figs. Since people were just coming in by one at a time, so it's like couldn't afford to buy more than one at a time. They're constantly really snackers. So constantly snackers, they never had to take up trumas and meisers. Okay? Because they were always taking one at a time. They weren't making little piles of them. Rabbi do you have Rabbi Zira? Rabbi Zira b'shem Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Hila b'shem Rabbi Lezer said, "Ma pligin." What are they arguing about? Now, we're talking about in our Mishnah, right? Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Huda. We're arguing about whether a sale is something which is not yet fully complete, makes it already fixed for Trumas and Meises or not. So what's their machlokas? Ma pligin. Says the Gemara, belocate v'nosin lo. We're talking about a case where you collect and where the guy who's selling it collects and gives it to you. Or he goes back into his garden or his vegetable patch, selects the fruit and gives it to you. Ava belocate le'echol, but a person himself gathers to eat, like you pick it, Kol mamodu. In that case, everybody agrees. Shu ochel achas u'achas potter. They can eat one by one and still be exempt. In other words, even Rameir holds that normally a purchase makes you chayv in Trumas Ma'asros. Here he holds that this purchase does not make you chayv in Ma'asros. Why is that? Very interesting thing. Because since the condition of the sale was you pick it. So the sale takes place at what point? While the stuff is still connected to the ground. A sale on something which is connected to the ground does not make it fixed for Trumas Ma'asros and to forbid snacking. No, it's more than that, because a sale is a din d'Rabbanan.
Oh, okay.
That people might get confused between when something is definitively chayv in Trumas Ma'asros or not. So they said anything within a container is chayv in Trumas Ma'asros, right? What?
If you sell it,
right.
You make it,
What?
right? Yeah, okay.
But the thing is like this, that's only a case where people might make a mistake. So which is not connected to the ground. So it's connected to the ground, people are not going to make mistakes. So Rabbanan didn't make a decree against that.
Oh, I see.
So like this, what it means here is that when I tell you collect the stuff which is connected to the ground still, nobody's going to think that you're not taking off Meiser because it's exempt from Meiser. People are going to think you're not taking off Meiser because it's connected to the ground.
Right.
There's no sale on something that's connected to the ground, meaning in the sense that it's not chayv Trumas Ma'asros yet. So what's going to be the problem? So therefore, when a guy goes in, if I go to a you-picket farm, so then in that case, when I go in to pick it, it's really as if I'm farming the land. And just as when I'm farming the land, it's not chayv Trumas Ma'asros until it's severed. And nobody holds it the Takora Rabban of any sort to be Mechayiv. So here it's not Chayiv Trumas Ma'asros until it's severed. Okay? When they made this Takora the Rabbanan, that this case over here is also because it looks like becoming Chayiv Trumas Ma'asros. It's only when you're getting it from the seller who himself has collected it. But where you yourself are going to the field and collecting it, so we're never going to be Mechayiv Trumas Ma'asros. Am I making myself clear at all?
Yeah, I mean, if it's still connected, there's no question about whether it's the same thing.
Right, so if I tell you go down and collect, it says to collect it. Right. Right, then you have to be cautious and you have to err on the side of caution. Okay. Let me just get another cup of coffee before we go on. Okay. You have Rabbi Hila?
Rabbi Hila? No. Oh, you want to go?
Yeah. Rabbi Hila b'shem Rabbi Eliezer said, "Hashem shem chalukin kan." Just like they disagree here about whether a sale is considered to be a sale prior to the complete preparation, bar snacking or not. So too they have a certain machlokas which is not directly related at all, but some machlokas when grain enters into a courtyard where it can be safe kept. Rabbi Yochanan b'shem Rabbi Yanai, Rabbi Yochanan named Rabbi Yanai, Mekach, a sale, Chotzer, entering a courtyard, the Shabbos, and the advent of Shabbos, Ein on Torah, they ban snacking, but not midaraisa, only d'Rabbanan. Rabbi Yanai, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Amar, HaMechuvar mikulan, the clearest of all these, meaning there's one of these which is even d'Oraisa, Zu Chotzer Beis Shmira, where it goes in a courtyard, which is protected. That courtyard makes it even a chayiv d'Oraisa. Yeah.
If I actually understood all this and I read it from myself, I really wouldn't understand it either because it's different than necessarily. Why are so many versions?
What's what?
Why are so many versions? Are they edited? Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's not poorly edited as opposed to the Bavli, which is very much more or less standardized. Yerushalmi is never really finally edited. It wasn't redacted like the Bavli was. Persecutions.
What?
Persecutions. Oh. What do you have? Where are you? Right? It's okay, I'll go to where you are.
What?
I'll go to where you are. Read me again where you are.
So if he buys, inferior, it's not a fee. I want to go fee.
Spell the word.
It's butter. It's shiur butter, smali, olive.
Okay, you're ahead of me,
Oh,
actually.
that's what I thought.
Okay, do you have Chevraya b'shem Rabbi Yochanan? Above, line above that?
Oh, yeah.
You do have that?
Rabbi Yochanan,
Okay, the word before that's not Chevraya? It's before b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, Chevraya b'shem Rabbi Yochanan said. The people in the base matter said name Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, you with me now? Kachi Amesh Rabbi Yehuda's Rabbi Meir. Now, this is the way Rabbi Yehuda responds to Rabbi Meir. In other words, we have the same machlokas, whether by chotzer. Of course, not according to Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish holds the chotzer makes it chayv daraisa. You're not allowed to snack even midaraisa. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, chotzer is a similar machlokas to over here, and the question is whether you're no longer allowed to snack midrabanan or not. Now, they said this is what Rabbi Yehuda would say to Rabbi Meir. Listen, a sale before complete processing can't forbid snacking from here on in. I'll bring you circumstantial evidence to that. Do you not concede to me? Are you with me still?
No.
What? What's the next word? Low, same idea, right? Don't you can still concede, but no sin leave no.
Yeah.
If you give to your son shiur potter, meaning the harvester gives the stuff to his son. A gift should be like a sale, yet it's not. So Mali Aloikim no say no. What difference does it make if I gather up and give it to my son? Malo locate for nosen lachar, gather up and give it to somebody else. The bottom line is a sale prior to formal completion of the fruit is not going to be a chayiv in Trumas Ma'asros. Says the Gemara. Well, actually, before the Gemara goes into this, I should tell you that Rabbi Meir would respond that he doesn't hold a gift as like a sale. Well, it's true, a gift by something which is not fully complete yet is not going to be forbid snacking, but a sale might. Okay? Rabbi Yehuda asked, Ma chomis meimar belocate v'nosilo. This is going back to what we said before. What did you see? Ma chomis means, what did you see? Meimar, to say, belocate, we're talking about locate v'nosilo, specifically a case that where does Rabbi Meir say the Yechayev and Trumas Ma'asros when you acquire it, where the guy gives it to you. In other words, the seller collected it and gave it to you. Oh, Neymar Beloki Vocha, maybe unlike we said previously, even if the buyer comes and collects in the seller's field, according to Rabbi Meir, it's still going to be Chayev and Trumas Ma'asros, the buyer. Why is that? So it says the Gemara, Raimona said, no, it can't be. Lace can be locate vochel. It can't be talking about a case where the buyer goes down to the field and collects himself. You know why it can't be? It'll be locate no, so it must be talking about a case where the seller gives him the fruit. How do we know that? Amazing proof. Minadov. From the following statement in the Mishnah. Are you with me still? Ginaz Vradim. It says a rose garden. It says that they used to give them what? They used to sell stuff from the rose garden, right? Would they let people to the rose garden?
Yeah.
Even today they don't let people in the rose garden, right? Unless you have special security passes, right?
So we don't give it to
Right. So it has to be given to him outside the rose garden. That's right. Islach Gina's brody belocated v'ochel. Do you have a case where they're going to let the buyers go down into the rose garden and pick it themselves? Can't be, right? Of hocha, so to hit el belocated v'nosin. Mishnah wants to talk about a case where you collect it, the seller, and you give it to him. Du Amar, Afacha Belogim Noslos, so sold to all cases, or where we have Machlok Sarmei and Ravila, are where the seller collects it and gives it to the buyer. Du Amar Le, why don't I let a guy into rose garden? Because I said to him, in At Olil Tamil, in At Olil, if you still go in, At Mekalkel Chavradai, you're going to ruin my roses, right? So it says the Gemara, Mastisa Pligo Dod Rabbi Mona. That which you assume that our Mishnah is talking about a rose garden, and therefore it's talking about a case where the seller extends the fruit out to the buyer, that argues on Rabbi Mona's statement. The Tani we learned to Brisa, Karmani Moicher. If I sell you, you're going to say you're going to sell you a vineyard. Afal Pishem Bokfanim. Even though there are no vines in it. Harez and Machor, it's a valid sale. Shalom Machar Lo Ela Shmo. Sometimes a rose garden is not a rose garden. It's called a rose garden.
Okay.
Just like sometimes, as we see here, a vineyard is not a vineyard, it's called a vineyard. What? That's what it says here. If I say I undertake to sell you a vineyard, I can even sell you a vineyard without trees, as long as it's called a vineyard by people.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so to our Mishnah, where it says, so a rose garden, doesn't mean it's necessarily really a rose garden. Maybe people did have access to it. So maybe I'm just trying to tell you about a case where you did say to a guy, come in and take it yourself. You might, maybe even in that case, maybe in that case, our mayor says that you're chayiv in Trumas Ma'asros from the moment that permission is granted. So again, along these lines, if I say I'm going to sell you an orchard, even though the orchard has no trees, all you sell is the name, no more than that. Okay?
Sure.
What's the matter? Getting back to our Mishnah. We want to prove that Mishnah is talking about a case where the seller brings the stuff out to the buyer because it's talking about a rose garden.
But then it says
no, you're right. That deprives us of our proof. That's exactly the point. So maybe it's not talking about a rose garden just by name and not by any actual substance. So therefore, it's possible to say that Rabbi Yehuda even argues there a mayor in a case where the buyer is coming in and collecting himself. Even in that case, Rabbi Yehuda holds that the buyer is chayav.
Well, you should have bought me
the
the
thing about
$6.
these hypotheticals, we're not sure what it is. It's just they have laid it out that if it is
right, and we don't know.
Right. So they're saying, depending on what it is, that's what you know.
That's right. Okay. Halach Dal. Alom el Chaver. Somebody says to his friend, Halach Isser Zeh. Take this coin. Betzertain him for the 10 figs. She'evorli, which I will choose for myself from your pile. So borer v'ochel, you can eat one by one without taking Trumas Ma'asros because that's called snacking. Ube'eshkol, if he's buying a cluster of grapes, she'evorli, when he says I'm going to give you money for whatever cluster I choose. Borer v'ochel, I'm sorry. He takes each seed off the tree and eats it separately.
$1 or you might need one the beans work the same.
Yeah, also the same idea. You have to take it separately. Berimon, shavarli, if a pomegranate, which I'm going to choose for myself. So porate v'ochel, he takes seed by seed and eats, and is still exempt from Trumas Ma'asros when he's snacking. Ba'avatiach a melon sha'avarli, So also you can cut the small pieces and eat it without Trumas Ma'asros or as a snack. Aval im Amar, but if he said im lo vesrim tainim elu, take this iser for these specific dates or figs, v'shtei eshkos here, these specific clusters of grapes, v'shnei ronim elu, for these specific clusters of pomegranates, v'shnei avatichim elu, in these two melons. Ochel kedarko upater. In all these cases, the buyer can eat normally and be exempt from Trumas Ma'asros, even though he just bought it. Why is that? Because all these cases are talking about eating the 20 dates, the 20 figs, and so on and so forth, right, with a set number. So in that case, he's considered to be exempt. Why? Because he acquired them when they were still connected to the ground. But it's the only time buying or acquiring makes you chayev in Trumas Ma'asros to the point that you're no longer allowed to snack is if you bought the stuff when it's severed from the ground. But if it's still connected to the ground, then you're chayev in Trumas Ma'asros. Okay, so far so good?
Yeah.
In other words, you're chayev in Trumas Ma'asros, you're not allowed to snack anymore. Okay, let's go to the Gemara. Rabbi Yossi Shem B'Yochanan said, oh, you might not have this whole thing. What do you have first in the Gemara?
Rabbi Yossi,
Yeah.
Rabbi
Yochanan said, Megarger achas v'achas v'ochel. You said take one by one and you eat them. Amar Rabbi Chia Barba, don't make piles. That's bad. Piles are like mini miruachs, right? Amar Chia Barba v'chene or Rabbi Avid. Rabbi Yehuda knows to do the same thing. Time Shem Yossi is her name Rabbi Yossi. An interesting halacha, nothing to do with Trumas Ma'asros, but it has to do with Chosh and Mishpat, with monetary halachas. Avatiach, a melon, shesafas v'afilu koshu, that you ate even a little bit of it, kano kula, kano, you acquire it. In other words, you eat it, you buy it, okay? Or you cut it, or you chop it a little bit to check it, you buy it, it's yours. Abioni, boy, Aprim, okay, Abioni asked, I think it's actually a statement. He said it's also true by pomegranates. In other words, even though they're separate clusters and kernels inside, none of us eat one of them, then you have to pay for the entire one. Okay? So let's go back to Mishnah. Mishnah Halacha Daled. Asoras HaPoel. Do you have that?
Yeah.
You hire a worker. Amnas likto timovatenim to dry figs with you. The worker says, I want to eat figs while I'm drying them. Ochel, eat the figs, the potter doesn't have to take off Trumas Ma'asros from them. The worker says that well, let me express, he's potter from taking off any Trumas Ma'asros. Now, Amnasha Ochan Yuvni, it says that on the condition that I get to eat, or that my son should. I'm not sure if it's the same case. 1 second. Okay, got it now. I'm not sure how aniyuvni. On the condition I'm going to eat I and my child. My son will eat as part of his allowance, so to speak. Who ochel upater, then the owner eats and is exempt. Uvno ochel v'chayev, and the one second. I'm confused.
It'll be cheaper. The more you buy, the cheaper it is.
Let me start the Mishnah over again, because I messed up here.
Well, do
you have the place now? Solas HaPoel?
What? Yeah.
Yeah. You hire a worker. Oh, okay. You hire a worker. I'm not to work with you on drying figs. So he says, the worker says, I'm not shochatainim. I want to eat figs while I'm working, ochel potter, so he can eat and be exempt. I'm not shochan ubni. I want to eat figs, but my kid also. Or shochan nebischila, my kid eat instead of me. Who ochel potter? He can eat and is exempt. No, but his son ochel v'chayav. He's ochel, but he has to take off ma'asros. Why is that? So the Gemara was going to clarify. The Gemara is going to clarify. There's a special Torah dispensation for a worker who has a job contracting by an owner that he can eat as much as he wants whenever he wants when he's out in the field. You aware of that? That's called similar to an ox. Right. So that extends to himself, but not to his son. So he says, I want my son to eat instead of me. So then he's chayav to tithe. Because it's not on his, when it's like his, because he's allowed to eat, so he doesn't have to tithe it. But when he transfers ownership to side, it's like a sale. It's like a sale. It's mechayev, it's in Trumas and Ma'asros. Okay? Again, he eats an exempt, ubno ochel v'chayev, his son eats and is chayev. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you're saying even a gift is...
according to this author, according to the author of this mission, which I think is very weird. Yeah, right. Okay. I'm not sure b'shas k'tziyah. What the worker says, I want to eat both at the time that we're drying v'achar k'tziyah, and after we finish drying. B'shas k'tziyah, at the time of the drying, ochel potter, he eats and is exempt from some ma'asros. Because, of course, obviously, that it's his, and so therefore he's to pay. There's no purchase there, and therefore he's exempt. However, I'm sorry, b'shas k'tziyah ochel potter, ulachar k'tziyah ochel chayev. After k'tziyah is over, so that he no longer has the right, he eats and is chayev. Shein ochel in because that way he doesn't eat midoraisa. Zaklau, this is general principle. Anytime the worker has the right to eat min Torah, he is potter. He's exempt from the rigorous requirements of Trumas and Ma'asros, and he can snack without taking off Trumas and Ma'asros. In a case where the Torah does not permit him to have the ownership, so then because he's not working at the right stage where the Torah granted the worker rights, so then chayev. So then if he gives over to somebody else, it's like a sale, and that's why he's chayev. Okay, in chayev meaning that he has to have take of Trumas Ma'asros, is no longer allowed to snack. Okay, so let's go back to the Gemara. Normally the misnah manas.
Where are we? The mission's easy because they have...
Yeah, I understand. Lamali the misnah.
So what's the point of him saying? What's the point by him saying? What's that point?
Yeah, right off here. Lamali the misnah. Lamali misnah amanas. Why are we talking about a case where the worker said, I want to eat? Even if he didn't say, I want to eat, and on the condition I eat, he gets it. It's his right, midoraisa. It's his rights, right? Rabbi Yovin b'shem Rabbi Yerushalmi said, we need the following case. Even if the worker was an idiot. He said, I want to eat. The Torah allows him to eat, but he says, I want to eat. He makes sure to say that. On the condition I get to eat. We tell him, Rabbi, the Torah allows you. He says, no funny business, no Torah here. I want you to know that I'm going to eat. So then it looks like a sale. Because he's trying to make it into a contract. Nonetheless, he's exempt from Trumas and Ma'asros. Okay? Tama Taninon, we learned over there, Hoya Osa Biyada. What a person is working with hands, Avalo Baragla, but not with his feet. Baragla Lo Biyada is working with his feet, not with his hands. So there it says, Afiluk Seifo, even as wearing the shoulders. You have Afiluk Seifo? Hareza Ochel is allowed to eat. Betani Kain. What?
I get a filu
That's the next line here.
Rabbi Yosef.
Yeah, well, 1 minute. Betani Kain Biyadav Oged. We learned like this in a brisa. Biyad of Oged. In his hands he ties. One second. Yeah, similar idea. I don't know. You probably don't have this whole brisa. The Tana came beyond of Oged, where he can eat when he's using his hands because he's using his hands to bundle. Perhaps he eat when he uses his feet because he uses his feet to support some sort of building which is collapsing. I feel safe for him is carrying something on his back toe, and as long as he's working, I guess. Yeah, as long as he's working, he gets to eat. Okay. Whatever he's doing, whether he's working with his hands and tying with his feet and supporting, or he's supporting some, I don't know why I translated the way I translated. Probably because I'm half asleep. But the Kavanaki says masmich means that he gathers fruit together with his feet. He uses his feet in the service of the owner. But I feel like even if he's cold, he's on his shoulders. That's enough to get him to eat whatever's out in the fields. My time, Rabbi Yossi, what's the logic? Rabbi Yossi says in all these cases you can't eat unless you're using both hands and feet. Kedaish, because learned it's like an ox who's threshing. Madaish miuchat shows to be other raglav, just like an ox who threshes uses his hands and feet. I've called of shows to be the other raglav. So too, if a human being wants to eat, he's got to use his hands and feet in the work. Otherwise, he's not given the Torah's license to go eat at will. Okay? That's what it says here. Rabbi Yossi held that way. Tanya, we learned in the Raisa. Daish, threshing, done by the ox. So we say, Lo sachsam sharbadisha, the ox may not be muzzled. Ma daish miucha, just like the threshing is unique, shubatosh, that it's done when the grain is already severed from the ground. Av kosh shubatosh, so to any time the grain is severed from the ground, or whatever it is. Yatsa menakish b'shumim, as opposed to somebody who's hoeing or weeding by garlic, ubtsoim, or by onions, v'amisamich, or somebody who's creating support beams, big fine for grapevines, v'oder, v'amakashkish, or somebody who's hoeing or covering seeds, tachzazesim, underneath for olive wood. Nonetheless, all these people cannot snack while they're working. It's not essential to their job. Tanya, we learned Daish, Madaish Miuchak, and it's not served from the ground, so it's still connected to the ground. Tanya learned to the Brisa, Madaish Miuchak Glua Minoretz, also to when does the worker have the right to eat? Only when he's dealing with something which grows in the ground. I've called that Glua Minoretz, anything which grows in the ground. Yatsa Acholi, as opposed to somebody who's milky, Vamagabi, making cheese, Vamachabits, or skimming the cream off milk. In all those cases, the workers are not allowed to eat unless they have the express permission of the owner. Tanya, we also learned Daish, like threshing. Ma Daish Miucha Dovish Lo Nimra Malachto, just like thresh is not yet completed, because there are other steps afterwards. I've called over Shalotzam Yotzam and Lo Nikra Malachto. So too, in order for the able to eat, it has to be something where the process is not yet complete. Yotza Boidel B'Tmorim, this excludes somebody who's separating dates, V'Fai Brogrots are separating figs, V'Yayin Meshikva, somebody who's separating wine from its frost, which is no good, its head, so good. Hashem Sharlukot, somebody who's dealing with oil after already went down into the presses barrels. In all these cases, it's after the Tayyik Mar Malacha, it's at a time when it's fully completely formed. This is just perhaps something which has to how to distribute it. So then this doesn't exempt from Trumas or Ma'asros. Tani, we learned also Madaish Miuchach Ma'asros. What can a worker eat? Only something where it isn't yet susceptible to Ma'aser. Just like threshes before it's susceptible to Ma'aser because it's before Miruach. I've called the Shlobo is today Zikas Ma'asros. Claiming something which is not yet susceptible to Ma'aser. Yotza, this excludes Halosh, somebody who's kneading, a worker who's working in a bakery. He's kneading the dough. If it pats it into forms. Vof and bakers, they all, since it's after there's a chiv of Ma'aser already, so they cannot say that they're exempt from paying Ma'aser and so on and so forth. Is that they're exempt from no, they cannot. They cannot demand food on the job. That's what I meant to say. They can't demand food on the job. Okay? Tana, we learned. Kitova b'kamas recha. When you come into your friend's standing grain, Yochel b'shar called them kosum dabra. It says they're allowed to eat. It's talking about anybody. I can go to my friend's grain and eat it tomorrow. It's content. Can't be. Talmud Lomar, it says v'chermesh lo sanif ha'kamas recha. You're not allowed to lift up an axe against your friend's produce, right? You don't have the whole pasuk, do you?
Yeah, I'm right at the bottom.
Okay, ashiyesh lo reshus lo hanif. So, but the thing is, the bottom line is, who does have the right to eat? In close juxtaposition, there somebody who has the authority to swing an axe on the property. Ve'zuzep who is that? A worker. Nobody else has the right to eat. Even it is talking about any other person. Anybody can go and eat from this. Can go and eat from this from this field. However, what does it mean? You shouldn't lift up an axe. It means you're only allowed to eat when everybody else is when the owner is harvesting. It's an interesting thing. Risa ben Yehuda is a very interesting sheet. He holds that everybody's allowed to go down when the owner is harvesting and happy and wants everybody able to come in. So not just the worker can eat, everybody can eat at that time. We don't pass like Risa ben Yehuda in this case. All right, you know what? Let's stop here for tonight because this starts a new thing or a little bit of a new thing over here already. We'll leave this for Tanya. We did 2 blot tonight. We'll leave Tanya for tomorrow night.
We didn't finish the mission.
What?
We didn't finish the mission. We have one more piece.
Yeah, we have one more piece. Okay.
All right.